All right, jump into some questions. We'll start with a good general question here. What are the common mistakes that roofers make when installing skylights?
Well, that's a good one. So the biggest thing is when you buy, it depends on the roof system that you're putting on, shingles or metal, but you always want to buy the flashing kit that's sold separately to the skylight that is made for that specific skylight. See a lot of guys trying to hand bend their own stuff and do their own. It's just not a good idea. The other thing is always ice guarding around the perimeter of the skylight. Seal that up as much as possible. They're probably the number one prone leak points in a roof system. Just because typically, well, they're hard to install properly. You've got a 2 foot wide place that literally all the water can just sit against. Most of them are 24 inches wide. So it's kind of like a chimney. It's definitely an area that's tough to seal up. But yeah, just ordering the matching flashing kit that like Velux sells a skylight. They also sell a flashing kit that goes with that specific skylight. That's the right way to do it.
Yep, makes sense. It's gotta cross every T, dot every I. So it
Yeah.
doesn't leak.
Well, and don't skimp on those things, right? Like there's places that money can be saved for the customer. If you're trying to give the customer a little bit lower end of a product because that's what's in their budget, that's fine. But that's just not a place to skim. It's the number one area for problems on a roof system. So don't cheap out there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
You want to know the best way to handle a skylight?
Don't put a
Rip it out
skylight.
and sheet it over. That's the best way to handle a skylight. Just get rid of it.
It's funny. All right. Let me see. We're running low on questions.
Getting flying on the bottom of the barrel, huh?
Yeah.
So while you're looking, I'll kind of talk about a little something that's happening with me that might get somebody else a little bit excited or give somebody else some advice that might work for them. So I have been talking with a guy that I'd love to hire in a market that I'm not currently in. He works for a really really good company. I mean, a very very um, old but high end roofing company. So I've been chatting with him from time to time for a while now, and I've just kind of been chumming it up with him. I haven't really like made a move on him or anything. And finally, yesterday, I just pulled the trigger and said, "Hey, I'd love to sit down and meet with you sometime, but I don't want to waste your time or waste my time. You know, would you ever entertain an offer from me to make a career change?" Just kind of threw it out there. I think I was scared to get denied, so I hadn't asked yet. So I asked this, I asked just very flat out. I don't want to drive 2.5 hours to talk to you if you're dead set on the career path you have. He straight up was like, I'd absolutely entertain an offer. I'm actually having some issues right now that is opening my eyes to some bigger things, and yeah, let's talk. So we've been talking all day today, all night last night. We're meeting Monday at lunch. Super excited. Um, and I think I'm going to land him. So, moral of the story is, don't, and I should know better than this because I've put so much risk out there, and, you know, I've never been afraid of it, but you can't be afraid of denial. You can't be afraid to fail. You've got to just try. I mean, I've been literally talking about this guy, talking to him for months, and I was just scared to get told no. And now that I finally grew a pair of balls and I asked him 3 days later, 5 days later, whatever it's going to be, I may add him to my team, so, um, yeah, just something that maybe that'll help somebody get through something.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta make the ask, and
Yeah.
see what happens. You never
Yep.
know. Um, yeah, no, I like that. I like that. But also the patience, you built a relationship, you took your time, that's probably a big career change for him. So, if you'd come after him right away, like, hey, I'm trying to hire you, that would have potentially gone another direction. But being being
Sure.
patient also probably paid off as well. So a combination of both.
Sure. Yeah, I think a combination of both, but I could have drug my feet for 6 more months very easily, or 3 more months very easily. And what would that have got anybody? That got it. Nope, that wouldn't have got anybody anything. So, um, yeah, building the relationship's always 100% key. But if you're chatting on a weekly basis, you've got a relationship. You know what I mean? If you want to pull that trigger, you can do that. You're at that point. So
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, for everyone just joining us, we're going through our questions, but if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask us and have us answer, please put those either in the chat or in the Q&A area at the bottom of Zoom, and we will address those instead. Otherwise, we'll just keep going through what we already have lined up. So I have a pretty good question here. How important is being face to face with a prospect when it comes to selling a roof?
I mean, it's probably the most important part of the sale. Case in point is we had that storm early last year. Our call volume was through the ceiling. I mean, we couldn't. I had to have 3 people full time answering phones. That's all they did was answer phones, 10 hours a day, and book appointments. We weren't even booking appointments because we knew we couldn't get to them, so we were doing virtual quotes. That's what we went to just to try to get in people's hands because we thought that would be, you know, effective. And so we were just we'd take their information, we'd run an Eagle View, we'd shoot them a quote. Our close rate at the time was like 8%. I mean, it was worthless. It was awful. As soon as we went back to in-person quotes, close rate back up to 35, 40%. I mean, you just have to. You don't have a choice. That is the consumer is not ready to purchase home services, in my opinion, virtually. It needs to be relationship based, and they need a face to put with the service.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about, a lot of people are out here saying, oh, sales is the way of the past. Everyone's going to buy roofs like they buy stuff on Amazon, and it's going to get, people are just going to show up, put it on the house, and they'll never talk to a salesperson. It seems to be a popular kind of train of conversation lately in the roofing space, like, be the Amazon of roofs. What are your thoughts there?
Yep.
Do you think it's just we're not there yet and we might be there? Do you think we'll never be there? What's your thoughts?
I just tried it. And really good process. They're really good. With a
I think
decent
you're, I think you're breaking up. Maybe give it a second. The
I
service is
should be good here anytime.
okay. I think it's catching up.
Okay. You
Yeah,
got me
start
good
that thought
now.
over. Yep, start your thought over.
Yeah, so I think those guys are full of shit because I believe we did it with a decent process in place, and uh the effectiveness was next to nothing. I think you might buy a car that way, right? like I know Tesla does it. I know John talks about it. Like I know, and it's great. You go online, you order your car, it shows up, you're done. Well, there's a little bit of a different factor with a car versus a home service. Home service, you know, there's too many of us out there. There's not one home service provider that is a monster in the market that you guarantee you can trust to get the warranties and anything that was to go wrong. And, if there was human error, it's going to be fixed. There's not that. There's a huge distrust in the industry. So the only way to effectively sell a service in a industry that has so much distrust is to build the relationship and build the trust. I don't think, I mean, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't hire a contractor just through, you know, a virtual quote, like the instant estimator tools that are out there. They're great tools. Roof Quote Pro, great tool, but it's a tool. I don't think it's meant to be the answer for sales.
Yeah, it's part of the process, not the new process.
Yeah, it's part of the process to where you have an option for. I think it's great for realtors. I think it's great for property managers, people like that just need a quick number just to get a ballpark where they're at. Even homeowners that are just trying to budget out their year, that tool is fantastic because now we use it as a lead magnet. Okay, now we've got some information from you. We can send you a little drip campaign so we can stay top of mind, but you also already, without wasting time, have a generic idea what the service is going to cost you without, having to deal with a salesman. But when it's time to pull the trigger and spend that $20,000 payment to a contract, I don't see it. I think it's in-person sales will always be king. Who knows, 20, 30 years from now, maybe we're in a different world, but I don't see it anytime soon in any market. Not even in California, in the big cities. I just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, I guess time will tell. Time will tell. Um, I I agree with you. I think that the key with all this technology that we have now is to use it to increase the efficiency of your sales team. Use it so that each member of your sales team can now go out and sell more than they used to, that the leads that they're selling to are more qualified, and that they have more of their questions answered before the sales rep even shows up. And if you can use technology to do that, you're in a massive advantage over your competitors. But trying to throw out the sales process entirely and replace it, I completely agree with you. And I just don't. I think it's just different. We're not selling books, home goods, and everything out, all the little stuff that you buy on Amazon. The thing is, the risk is so low, and then you have these repeat transactions over and over again. So you build this trust where you're like, oh yeah, I can order something. So you might order something that's $500 or $1,000 on Amazon because you've had so many experiences, those little experiences over time, maybe even 10,000 if it's from Amazon, the brand of Amazon that you had transactions with thousands of times over the years. And that even if something does go wrong, they immediately fix it, refund your money. That is not the reality for roofing contractors. You're making one, possibly two, maybe three transactions over the lifetime of the relationship with that customer. And so you can definitely do a lot to have them trust you more than your competitors, but it's a long ways from where they're just willing to just buy something without ever meeting you.
It's just like Facebook ads. Consumers trust to that kind of stuff as at an all-time low. So why do we think that we would sell full roof replacements? We can't even get them to put in a little bit of info into a Facebook ad. How do you think you're going to sell $20,000 roofs when they won't even fill out a lead form, let alone buy a whole roof in that manner, right? I mean, I just I don't see where anybody could think that that's getting close. I think we're getting further from it.
And I mean, the advent of AI all this AI generated content and video and audio and text. It's like the trust for online channels is just dropping more and more by the day. So it's not getting
Yeah,
better. It's getting worse.
that's right. It's
So
getting
yeah.
worse. People want to talk to a face more today than they did 5 years ago.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So for you guys watching, please, if you have questions, put those in the chat, put those in the Q&A section, and we will address those instead. Otherwise, we're just going through our questions and answering those, the questions that we have lined up. So yeah, put those questions in the Q&A section if you got them. All right. Let's do maybe something marketing related. What do you think is the keys to effectively branding a roofing company?
I think getting your name out of is one big one. Getting your name off the side of the truck. I think that's, most names aren't they're if they're really common names, then it just blends in with the fray anyway. And if they're really uncommon names, then they're hard to read, spell, and pronounce. So I think that's one thing that, I know I did it. I made that mistake early on and had to spend a lot of money to get out of that. But standing out. I mean, we looked when we rebranded. We took a lot of time and looked at all of the markets that we were wanting to be in. Looked at our competitors, the colors that they had on their logos, the colors they had on their trucks, the script, the font, that just kind of how things were branded with all the competition. And we tried to go a totally different direction. We wanted something that was really, really going to be clean and nice and effective to the point. I mean, rain stoppers roofing, like, it's not real difficult to know what we do, but we also wanted it to really stand out. So I think that's a big key. And then the way you market after you build the brand, you have to market in ways that your competition's not. Again, just like Facebook. If you're going to go throw Facebook ads out, just get on Facebook for a couple hours and look at how many roofing ads are already out in your market. If there's 20 other companies already using that platform to try to do their marketing, do you really think you're going to stand out in a group of 20? Probably not. And the spin that you're going to have to even attempt it is going to be so high that it's not going to be worth it anyway. So find something. I'm not saying, I know I do radio and things like that. I'm not saying that's right for anybody. We got one market that doesn't work at all in. We have no success with it in one of our markets, but another one of our markets, we dominate on the radio. So it's finding places that you can advertise. And maybe next door, maybe nobody in your area is using next door. Maybe you can use that as a great place to build your brand. But yeah, I think doing things that your competition's not doing in marketing to further your brand is critical.
Yeah. Differentiate yourself. Yeah, the thing is with the name, it makes sense. Everyone ends up having their name in their roofing company because who are you selling to? You're generally friends and family at the beginning. And so
Yep.
it helps with that first year. It's an advantage in the first year. But then after you get past that first year, year and a half, even 2 years, and you've run out of friends and family to replace roofs, it's not helping you anymore.
Right. Exactly. And here's the thing. If you can name it anything, and your friends and family are going to know about it. Your mom's going to tell your aunts and uncles, and your aunts and uncles are going to tell their work relationships that their nephew started a roofing. You know what I mean? Those immediate relationships will still carry weight no matter what you name it. So it's just, but the mindset is you should, name it after yourself, to be proud of it, to market to that local network you have. The local network you have is already going to support you either way.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Makes sense. All right.
Plus, it's so damn expensive to rebrand once you've established your business. You don't want to do it. I'm telling you firsthand. That's been the biggest investment I've made into our company ever,
Yep.
ever. It cost probably 3 times what I expected.
Yeah.
It just, when you actually sit back and look at what you truly spent, it's a ton.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I watched John go through that and it was just, yeah, I think it was probably 6 times what he thought it was going to cost.
Yeah, you have no idea you don't realize how much of a presence you have until you try to change your brand, and then you're like, oh my God, I got to buy $10,000 just worth of shirts and jackets and hoodies. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even think that that's a big cost because you just buy so many of them each year to keep your guys in some new ones. No, you got to trash all of those and start over.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, guys, if you got any questions, please put those in the Q&A at the bottom or the chat, and we'll address those. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on going. All right, next question. When you're backed up during the busy season and you have kind of a backlog of jobs that you're trying to do, and or a backlog of sales appointments, because maybe your sales team's completely booked out for, days or week or even a week plus. And how do you communicate to prospects that are calling you in that want immediate service that you're busy, but in a way that doesn't lose them? How do you keep those prospects on the hook without completely losing them when you're completely booked out?
That's a good question. We, like I said, we ran into that a little bit last year, and
Oh, I think we lost.
part of that was because of that storm. But the way we addressed it was a failure. Am I losing you again?
You cut out for a second, but I think you're back. And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So I think so with labor's the easier, in my opinion, of the two. You know, especially in this crazy world of residential roofing where everything's pretty much subcontract. It's not that hard to get on Facebook and find some labor. Find you a couple crews, give them a couple of test jobs. You can quickly weed out a shitty crew from a decent crew. Okay, this crew was good. Let's give them a week's worth of work and see how they do. And we're going to supervise it. And we're going to start adding them to our uh, group of subs that we're working. So that one's easy because there's just so much opportunity with subcontract labor. But the sales appointments, that's when it gets tough because your salesmen, I mean, they are the face of your company. You can't just put anybody in there just to give them a week's worth of training and throw them to the wolves. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. The last guy we had hired, he was in training daily, I believe, for about 3 months before we really let him go out on his own. You know, um, and I'll be honest. I mean, I felt that after it's all said and done, I felt like I failed in that situation. I don't think he was trained well enough at that point. I think he still had things to learn. Um, so yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if that's a long-term problem, if that's going on, consistently throughout the year, you need to start hiring sales guys and putting them through your training process. But if it's a short-term thing, like we ran into with a storm or something, to me, that's time the owner's got to just buckle up and start going to appointments himself. Maybe if you've got a service tech that knows the business, like I've got one service tech guy that understands the business. He understands our CRM. He knows, how he could sell in a pinch, maybe a week's worth of training and he could sell. He's not going to sell it at the best conversion rate, but you could trust that he could be the face of the company, and do the right thing. So But I think that's time the owner's got to step up, or if it's a long-term problem, time to start, searching the web for some quality candidates.
If you've done, you do all that and you still, it is temporary. It's like a, situation that was just over a month or two. You've already maxed out everything. What are you telling your receptionist to tell people when they call in and you're on a,
Yeah,
2 week backlog of just sales appointments? What is the language that your receptionist is going to use?
yeah. If that was the case, we would ask them if it was an immediate problem, if it was actively leaking. If it is, would you like us to come get a tarp on that thing? If it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks before I can get someone out there to schedule an appointment, but I can get somebody out there to tarp this thing in the next 2 days. So, find a solution to their problem, because at the end of the day, that's why they're calling you. And if it just takes a little while to get them a quote, that's unfortunate. But at least being upfront and honest, and also kind of addressing some of their issue, I think would be a great way to handle that.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. I like
There's no sense in sugarcoating it. You got to just be honest. Like, hey, my guys are booked for 3 weeks. Sorry,
yeah.
but we can absolutely try to help you and get you a quote here in 3 weeks.
So you would not recommend saying, "Oh yeah, we'll be out in 3 days," and then rescheduling 7 times?
Right, and that's what most of our competition does. The amount of people that tell my guys, "Well, I've called 6 contractors and none of them showed up," and then the next thing I see in ProLine all the time is my our automations will be sending sales follow up, and the customer's response to the sales follow up text will be, "Well, I'm still waiting on Jack to come over here look at this roof. He was supposed to come Monday, and he rescheduled for Wednesday, but now he's coming Friday." Like, holy shit! So he's rescheduled 3 times. Like, you know, obviously that's not your guy, but by
Yeah.
God, they'll wait for him, hoping the price is better. So it's like, that's not the way you should handle it, though, because I guarantee you that guy's getting his ass chewed every day from those customers. Even though they still will be willing to deal with him, they're still chewing his ass every day.
Yeah. What do you tell your sales guys when they get that response back? What do how do they handle that?
I think one of them's in the group, but Josh was, I think he's in the group. He'll literally send a message back and ask them if the relationship's already starting this bad with that contractor. Are you sure you even want to wait on him at this point? I mean, I've seen him send. The problem is, as good as Josh is at everything, his texts come across a little bit
To the point?
not as professional sometimes. So sometimes I think they come out wrong, but he's right, and it's like, and now I've also seen the responses come back sometimes where they're saying, "You know what, you're right," you know, because that's kind of the slap in the face they need. Is like, do you really want to deal with this asshole? He stood you up 3 times. Like, you know, my
Yeah.
price is fair. I'm treating you right. Whatever. Yeah. So that's how he handles it. I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going back to that what we were talking about before, this just underscores it. When it comes to something this big of a purchase, where there's so much fear both about the process and about the price, and so much so that almost every homeowner is going to go out and get at least two, if not three, maybe even four quotes for it before they make a decision. That is not a type of buyer that is prioritizing convenience and ease of purchase. That's a buyer that is doing the opposite. They're willing to massively inconvenience themselves put up with people standing them up multiple times and rescheduling all these things just to make sure that they're getting a good price and that they've seen all their options. It's a completely different type of buyer than the buyer that's going and buying, some clothing or books or whatever it is through something online.
Right.
So, all right. Next question. Here's an interesting one. I am a one-man company. Should I charge less than my competition to win jobs?
Honestly, I've said this for a while. If I knew the headache it took to get to this point, don't get me wrong, I'm at a point now that's very good and very comfortable. But the work it took to get there and building the team, I would have stayed one man because you to answer your question, yes, you can be cheaper. You don't have any freaking overhead. You don't have any bills. You know what you got I mean, I can tell you if I was one man, I'd run it out of the garage of my house. I wouldn't have rent anywhere, office. I mean, you could literally have zero overhead if you wanted. Obviously, if you want to get into advertising, it's another thing. But I think of the one man show, you don't even need advertising. Like you literally don't need any of that stuff. I don't think you should be cheaper though, because you can still sell at the same gross margin that everybody. You already know that industry standard is somewhere between 30 and 40%. I think we can all agree somewhere in that realm is kind of industry standard. Okay, well, just stay at the 30% if you want to win a lot of jobs, and you'll probably net 25%. You know, like you don't need to take your gross clear down to 20 just to win jobs. You'll win plenty of jobs at 30% gross profit margin. So, but you have literally no debt and doing that, no overhead and doing that. So your pickup truck or what, you know what I mean? Like, which you're probably driving that to Applebee's on the weekend anyway. So it's not like it's the gas in it's overhead. You know what I mean? You still got to have the vehicle.
Yep. 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 Makes sense. All right. Let's do another question here. And for you guys watching, please put your questions in the Q&A if you got them. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing ours. So, but let us know if you have questions. All right. How can I negotiate the best prices with my suppliers to reduce costs?
Get quotes from every supplier in town. If you've got someone you like dealing with, we do it every year. We're not as cutthroat as we once were, but we always take our pricing. We love ABC. We love dealing with them. But we always get a double check. We'll call up, Beacon, or we'll call up SRS, and we'll see where they're at price wise, and just hold our sales guy accountable, making sure that we're still being treated fairly. He's got our loyalty, so we just want to know we have his. So, we just double check that. We do it about once a year. Each spring we'll kind of see where everybody's at, make sure we're still getting best possible pricing. Because here's the thing: at the end of the deal, they win if you win. Even if they're selling you those shingles at $1 or $2 less a bond or whatever it is. I know margins on shingles is super low, but on accessories it's not. So as long as they're competitive and beating their competition by a little bit, but you're selling work and you're actively don't be afraid to have one.
Push them a little bit. How often do you go back and get quotes from multiple suppliers? Because I mean, you're not doing that every job, right?
We got to the point now, we're down to about once a year. For a while we were checking it probably quarterly or monthly. Like we would get quotes from time to time. But no, we're at a point now where we lock our pricing in at the beginning of the year. We get the increases that are industry wide increases, the 3%, the 5%, whatever they are throughout the year. But I mean, in all honesty, there's no avoiding those. For some reason, there's just no avoiding those. ABC, Beacon, SRS, they're all getting the exact same increase. So, yeah, we check it at the beginning of the year. Like I said, the relationship with ABC has just been so good for us that they don't screw us around. We've checked it enough that we trust them. We're loyal to them. They're loyal to us. We don't need to keep poking that bear.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. I think we can extend this past just material suppliers too. Let's talk about things like your software providers, for example. With ProLine, now we are not going to price match other platforms just because it's not apples to oranges. However, we at least have several different programs, the credit for content programs, our referral program, and I mean, we also have the affiliate program. I think there's one I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but we are still trying to come up with more. We have a variety of different ways that our users can save money and cut their costs with us if they're willing to provide something else in exchange, whether that's content or referrals from the contractors. So there's ways for them to get that cost down pretty substantially. And so and I don't think that's exclusive to us. If you reach out to, it can be software, it can be service providers, like, hey, is there something that I can do? Is there any way for us to get the price down in some other way? Can we do some sort of exchange, or can I help you out in some way that would give us some money off the price? So I think, you can get creative both on the suppliers and on your other vendors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Same goes with labor. It's no different with labor. We ran into a tough year this year where our market just was not producing the numbers that we wanted to produce, and we were just getting beat on price every day. And we're buying material at the best price in town. So the only other option, we took it in the shorts and for a certain amount and dropped our margins just overall. But then we went to our labor and said, hey, if you guys want to work, how competitive can you get? And they ended up this year they're taking $10 a square less than they took last year. Mind you, we're selling it even after that, we're selling at about 7% gross profit less than what we sold at last year. So I mean, we're taking it just the same as they're taking it, and we'll all win at the end of the year because we all, sacrificed a little bit to stay whole. But your labor can be negotiated just as well as anything.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. All right, I do need to jump off a little bit early, so let's wrap up there. Have a good rest of your drive, and we
Yeah,
will see everybody next week.
sounds good. See you guys.